Hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast. Thank you very much.
Exactly. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to 30-something podcast with Tanya
And Sasha.
and Sasha.
Oh, okay. There must be a lag. I said, and
It's good
Sasha,
to be
and you
back.
went, and? I was like, and who?
It's good to be back. We've taken a little holiday, haven't we? Of a few
Not
weeks.
on purpose.
Yeah, but also I was like, it's okay to just give ourselves a holiday. It's the summer, and I was in Hong Kong for a couple weeks. Sasha joined in Hong Kong and she's still there. And you've got a fun little background, which is of our dad's place, with his iconic painting that he's had for many years of some dudes riding some horses. Some funny-looking dudes riding some pretty funny-looking horses.
Some random
This
dudes.
episode is our 10th episode.
Woo!
Yay! So we've hit a mini milestone, haven't we?
Oh, can you say 10 in 10 languages?
Ooh, I don't think so. I can try. 10.
Let's try.
This. Dej.
Okay.
That was Spanish and Portuguese.
Uh-huh.
Sup, which is Cantonese. Oh, I forgot Arabic. Wahid is
Yeah. That's all I remember too.
What else have we got? Dix in French. Is that right?
Yeah, dicks.
Yep. What about Mandarin? Sure.
Uh-huh. How many is that? 5?
No. Wait, I've lost count. Is that 7?
I think that was 5.
I think that was 6. No, I think that was
okay,
6.
If you say so.
I did English, Spanish, Portuguese. Oh,
French.
I didn't do the Arabic one.
Mandarin.
French. Oh, yeah.
Oh, and Cantonese. 6.
No, then Cantonese. 6.
Okay.
What else have we got? Do you know Italian?
No. I know German. Zen.
Gone. Very good. That's 7. Where are we going to whip up another 3 from?
Canadian.
Canadian. American. That might be all. That might be all we can get to, I'm afraid. I'd have to really think about that.
Surely we can do better than that. Surely we can do better than that. Oh, I know. Of course, I know Norwegian, which is. Give me a second. Oh no! You know, we're saying how, like, in our brains we have one compartment for English and then another compartment for foreign languages, and in there they're all mixed up, and I can't.
Can you start from 1?
Dang. No, I feel embarrassed because I feel like I'm gonna get it all wrong and mix it up with Portuguese and stuff. Maybe it's
I can
T?
edit it out. T?
Okay. I think ein, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7 I don't remember, and then I get confused. I don't remember. Surely there's a language that goes ni ti for 9, 10. I'm sure of it, but I don't know what language that is.
Well, maybe it's Norwegian. I don't think I know that.
Maybe. Oh no, so bad.
Maybe it'll come to you mid-episode.
Yeah. Okay, well, that was a fail.
Anyway, well, no, I mean, yeah, it was a fail. You're right. Based on the goal that we were setting ourselves. We thought a nice thing to do as a mini celebration of our 10th episode is to just read bits of feedback that we've received from friends near and far. But yeah, it's been really nice to know that even in the span of 10 episodes, there's been impact, or people that connect with what we're saying or feel less alone because of what we're talking about. That's really nice. That is a win for me, even if it's one person that gets positively affected.
Yeah. I'm sure that, it sounds like people have felt validated by some things we've said.
So let me have a look. This one might be a little bit difficult to summarize because I don't want to reveal too much personal information, but this was someone I knew in university and didn't really remain friends, but had her on social media, and she was saying it resonated with me. And she was at the end of her 20s when she changed a whole bunch of things in her life, big things. And she remembers she never really felt free or sure about that being the life that she wanted before. And so she really resonated with, I think it was our, well, actually just the first couple episodes, really. She says, thanks for the podcast. I'm a full-time mom at 35 with 2 kids and listening to deep convos, which is fun. Okay, this one came from another friend of mine. She says, I absolutely love the clips of your podcasts. They always make me smile. She also went through quite a tough breakup, and now she's at 31 figuring it out again and rebuilding her life from scratch. And it's scary and joyful and liberating and lonely and confusing and magical all at the same time. You're definitely not alone on the roller coaster. That's very nice. Another friend of ours says, I'm sick today and listening to the podcast, and it's honestly so relaxing listening to your voices. Also some great laughs. And then she went into some very insightful rants about her perspective on some topics we had on our episode, which is nice.
I found the comment from one of my students, ex-students. When I listen to you, it feels like I'm having a quality conversation with 2 of my friends. I'm sure you'll be discovered by other people one day. I appreciate you. Please continue. That was very nice.
That is nice. Very nice indeed. So yeah, that's a nice reminder to keep going. To keep going. We've also had lots of lovely verbal feedback. I've had plenty of people tell me that they think you're funny, or we've got a good dynamic, which I guess we spent years honing. So, you know.
For the purposes of this podcast, eventually.
Yeah. So then let's dive into today's topic, shall we? It's not quite so lighthearted, but the last episode we did was about depression. This episode is going to be about anxiety.
Depression's best friend.
Depression's lovely sister. Yeah, sister. We've spoken a little bit about our various experiences with anxiety, but today will be a bit more of a, I guess, in-depth one. And it's something probably I've struggled with a little bit more than Sasha has. But I think, Sa, you've had some anxiety, haven't you?
Oh, just a little.
Yeah. Okay. So let's dive in, shall we? So I'll give an overview of how my anxiety has appeared and evolved through my life. And I'll say this first, and I think this might be quite unusual, but I don't think I knew what anxiety even felt like until the age of maybe 18, 19. Like, it was not a feeling that I had. I know a lot of teens had loads of anxiety, but I just didn't. I knew what nervousness felt like, but it was different. And I always thought when people talked about anxious, I was like, oh, did they just mean nervous? It's like, no, it's not quite the same. Like, I would get nervous, like, to perform on stage and stuff, but it's not the same as anxiety. And it's quite difficult to describe the difference as well. Because some of the physical symptoms will be similar, but anxiety is so much more uncomfortable. It's like nervousness without any excitement or hope. It's just
it's more like fear, isn't it?
Yeah, is it like fear? I guess it's similar to fear, but it's so difficult to explain the difference. It's similar to fear, and paranoia, but maybe a lot less. Yeah, but it's a lot less active, like forward. No, I don't know. I really don't know how to describe this. It's just like a very uncomfortable buzz, but it doesn't, at least for me, it doesn't prompt me to like take action or move forward. It wants me to like totally retreat and die inside. Yeah. Whereas fear has like this forward motion. So does nervousness.
Okay.
Anxiety is like
how about, is it like implosion. Embarrassment? I think it's like embarrassment
Nah.
or paranoia
I mean,
too.
you can be embarrassed layered onto anxiety for sure, but no, I don't think it feels like embarrassment. Maybe a little bit. Anyway,
Because embarrassment makes you want to retreat
yeah, that's true.
and wish that you
It
just weren't
does.
existing in that moment.
Yeah, I guess in that way it's similar. Although, funnily enough, like I really don't get embarrassed much in my life. Most of the time, it'll be because I'm anxious and then I behave weird. I get
Hmm.
embarrassed about it. Anyway, it's really difficult to describe. But when I think the first times I really noticed the feeling of anxiety was at university, public speaking, like doing presentations in class and things. And that was something I never really had a problem with before. Like I was pretty pretty chill about doing public speaking, but then all of a sudden, like at uni, I just felt so uncomfortable about it. And I don't know if it was because of a uni setting or some chemical imbalance that was going on in my brain. I think it was honestly just like my general state of being not being very well. Like I wasn't very happy and I didn't really I started to my sense of self was wavering a bit in that period of my life, and I think that overall contributes to this like anxiety that is ever present and is easily triggered. But then it really turned into, as my 20s went on, I guess, it turned into mainly social anxiety. Like that is the main form of anxiety that I experienced personally, with some panic attacks that were not necessarily social related. But most of my anxiety was social anxiety. And that was very annoying for me because like when I was younger, I was so comfortable with people. And I think I derived a lot of my self worth my from my ability to be comfortable with people, and I was like really extroverted and whatever. And then when that started to change and I got really quite socially anxious, I was like, damn, who am I then? Like this sucks.
Hmm.
I lost so much of my mojo. And that was frustrating, and I didn't know why, didn't know where it came from at the time, really had no idea how to fix it, in quotation marks. And it really hindered my joy, I think, a lot, because
Hmm.
I got a lot of joy from my social interactions before.
So, can I
And
ask
how it yeah.
how you recognized it as anxiety when it came to it starting with the public speaking? Because if you had felt nervous before, then how was it different?
Yeah. That's a good question, and again, difficult to describe. I mean, it's kind of like what I was saying earlier. Like, I think I felt, it's almost like when you're nervous. Say when you're public speaking and you're nervous, you might have a fast heart rate. Maybe you're like trembling a little bit or whatever. You might not be enjoying the moment. You're like, oh, I kind of hate this moment, but like I'm pushing through. When you're anxious, it's like you get all those physical symptoms, but rather than like, I'm not enjoying this moment, you're like, I hate myself.
Hmm.
Like, there's that feeling of like, I feel so uncomfortable with myself.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's one way to describe it, I guess. It's like this squirm, this like squirm inside yourself. You just want to like hide in a little hole forever.
What would be the
And
benefit
maybe
of
you have
this
a lot more
whole?
negative. That's the other thing. Maybe you have a lot more negative self talk in the moment than compared to when you're nervous. That's a bit more like pointed at you, who you
Hmm.
are. What was your question?
I said, what would be the benefit of this metaphorical hole? That you wouldn't be seen, or that you wouldn't exist, or what?
Yeah, both, depending
Hmm.
on the severity of the situation.
Hmm.
Yeah, but I think mostly that you wouldn't be seen. Yeah, and yeah, and so like my, I guess, social anxiety, if I were to describe how it sort of manifested for me, when it was at its low level, it would be like, I don't want to meet new people. It'll be that kind of thing where it's like, I don't feel like going out and like chatting to loads of people. I just don't feel like very comfortable in myself right now or around other people. And then at its moderate level for me, this very annoying thing would happen where I would sometimes be in the middle of a conversation and for no reason that I could identify, I would just have this anxiety that bubbles up and then it makes me blank. Like I just totally blank in the middle of a sentence or in the
Yeah.
middle of someone saying something to me. I'm like, I blank and it's weird. And then you have this like spiral about the fact that you're blanking. But it's just like this physical response where your brain suddenly can't function anymore. That sucks.
When you're in the middle of a sentence and that happens, do you, before you've learned any ways to deal with it, what did you do? Did you just go, what did you do?
I'm trying to remember. Sometimes it would be that. I'd go, until I try and find my train of thought again. Sometimes I'd be like, oh, I'm blanking. Just like nothing happens. So yeah, it would be something of that sort, basically. So it's the kind of thing that probably someone else wouldn't really notice, or they'd be like, strange. But like it wouldn't be a big deal. But in my head, it's like a catastrophe because you're catastrophizing it because of how you feel. At its worst times, it would be like when I'm public speaking, having like a little panic attack or something like that. And that hasn't
Having a
happened
little
all
panic attack, a
much.
cutesy little panic
Cheeky
attack.
little, just a cheeky little panic attack. Which again, like probably doesn't look like a big deal on the outside, but on the inside, it felt pretty crap. And I'll give an example of that. Actually,
Yeah, because I
I
actually
hate
don't
to.
know what you mean by a panic attack that doesn't look like a panic attack. I don't know what that is.
Yeah. So I've had different forms of panic attack. I've only had a handful, maybe like 3 or 4, and each time was quite different in its manifestation. But one time, it's so embarrassing to talk about because at the time I had so much shame about it because at the time I still didn't really understand what was happening to me in regards to my anxiety. I was like, what is this feeling? Like I hadn't really befriended it at all. But this was my first like office job, let's say, corporate job. And I think like it was quite high pressure and it felt like a bit what's the word?
Imposter syndrome?
Imposter syndrome. Yeah. And we used to do these things like on a Friday where we like sit and have drinks together and then we go around the table. And even just saying go around the table like makes me feel uncomfortable. Go around the table and like have to say like, oh, what went well in the week, or what went bad in the week, and something personal from the week, like something like that, you know? And for some reason, they always made me so uncomfortable because it was like a bit public speaky. And I'd somehow developed this like fear of public speaking at university. And one time it just got so bad that and also at the time I think I was sharing something about my personal life that already made me anxious, which didn't help. And I don't know why I said it. I think I didn't expect to respond that way. When I said it, I was like blanking so hard. I suddenly got like very physically anxious. And I remember like my face was like shaking. I was like on the verge of tears. I could barely talk. This is how it felt like subjectively. Maybe on the outside it didn't seem like that. But yeah, yeah. And then I think someone said something like, okay, I don't know what happened, but I remember someone at some point just being like, okay, that was weird. Like moving on or something like that. And
Oh no, that's so
I
mean.
had no idea. Yeah, like I had no idea what was happening to me or my body at the time. And I remember
So
after work
it
calling
probably
you.
did look like what you felt like.
Maybe. Yeah, and I remember after work calling you and your boyfriend at the time. And I don't know if you remember this, and like I told you all about it, and I was like, I feel like I want to die. Like I feel like quitting now, like never seeing those people again. Just like But it's something so minor. But
I
to me, it was like, what was that?
Yeah, I remember it happening. I don't remember the phone call. I've witnessed you getting social anxiety in the middle of your sentence, maybe once or twice.
Have you? Okay.
Yes, and I can see it, but I don't know if everyone can see it.
Yeah.
But I also have the context that I know that that happens to you occasionally, so I would immediately be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, Tanya's face looks a bit weird. Oh, she must be having social anxiety."
I wonder what the face is. Just like panic.
Kind of like shakily smiley.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Trying to smile through the pain. You know, the thing is, like, it's quite funny for me to talk about now because I'm kind of out the other end where I've got a very different attitude towards my anxiety. And I also, like, rarely feel anxious now. And I'll sort of tell you more about my journey to get to this place. But there was a real period in my 20s of a few years where it was just like, try- yeah, it was a new
Yeah,
experience. I didn't really know what was happening and so on.
yeah. And you became
Which
more
I,
like you became almost afraid of basically like talking to people, new
yeah,
people.
a little bit. A little bit, yeah. Which sucks because I love meeting new people. But yeah, I was afraid.
Ugh.
Shall I tell you more about panic attacks? Maybe we should
Yeah,
have a little trigger warning. But
I don't know.
anyway,
Is
trigger
panic
warning.
attacks a thing? Okay.
I don't know. Like if you
Yeah.
describe a panic attack in detail, it might like make people feel. There was this other form of panic attack that I had, which was triggered. Well, yeah, I guess I'll vaguely give the context. My
Sorry
partner and
to
I were doing.
interrupt you just as you're beginning. Sorry, but wouldn't this be an anxiety attack?
I don't think so. I think anxiety attacks are a bit more long lasting. They'll build and they
Okay.
can be like hours and days. I think as a form of a panic attack, a bit more shorter and acute. Yeah, at the time, my partner and I were doing long distance. He was studying in the US, and we were talking on the phone. And I was already in like quite an anxious period of time anyway, but a sequence of things had happened in the conversation that triggered this feeling in me that he was cheating, and it was totally unfounded, totally irrational. Like I knew consciously like that was obviously not happening, but like the fear just like erupted in my body. And I remember, and I've been cheated on before, so I guess it triggered like a bit of a trauma response in a way. And I told him like, I need to call you back. Like I can't talk to you right now because I knew I was getting like really anxious. And then I went into the living room where you were. I think I said to you, I don't know what I said to you actually, but I sort of revealed to you what was going on. And I just like
Mm-hmm.
broke down in tears and was like sort of hyperventilating and like couldn't control the physical response. Do you remember that?
Vaguely, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember it. I don't remember any detail about it.
Yeah.
I was
And I think
depressed
that
at
was
the time,
this.
by the way, guys. I'm not a bad sister. I just have very little memory of that time.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a fun year, you and I. Like mental health issue galore. Yeah, and then afterwards I was like, oh, okay, that was a full blown panic attack. And that was the first time I'd experienced it. I was like, okay, that's what it is. That was different. But yeah. And that was interesting. And I had to really reflect on that and then obviously share with my partner like what I was feeling and explain to him like really this is just me. This is me and my emotional response. It's really got nothing to do with whatever it was that triggered it.
Yeah. Do you remember
Yeah.
going back to when you had the panic attack in the living room? Do you remember if I recognized it as a panic attack? Did I treat it
Yeah.
as a panic attack?
You did. You just held me tightly, which I think was quite a good thing to do at the time. And then I had one that was a bit worse, actually, a bit later. And I don't really want to go into what triggered it. It was just some stuff going on in the house. This was mid COVID, mid lockdown. I was really upset about something. I felt like oppressed a little bit about something I was feeling. And I think that triggered then the anxiety because I wasn't like really letting myself express it. And then, yeah, it was like full blown. hyperventilation, crying. And it's such a weird feeling because by that time, I was already familiar with what it was. Like, I knew I was having a panic attack. So there's a voice in your head that is quite relaxed because you're like,
Mm.
I know
Mm-hmm.
what's happening. I know I feel like I'm going to die, but I know I'm not going to die. This will pass. But
Yeah.
everything else in your body is like, yeah, on the verge of dying, it feels like.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, why can't I just breathe? And your body's like, nope, no breathing, hyperventilate. Yeah, this is good. Just keep hyperventilating, and like tears just streaming down my face, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
what's happening? And you just have to wait. You just have to wait for it to pass. You know, it's
Yeah.
really awful. And
Yeah.
that one lasted like, it felt like almost half an hour maybe, and
Mm.
and then afterwards you're totally exhausted, like totally emotionally, physically exhausted. Yeah, so that's what it's like to have a panic attack. At least for me, I haven't had one in a good while, which is nice. But yeah, I've been pretty anxious at times around public speaking, particularly like if I'm doing a presentation at work and stuff. But I had enough practice now with that that actually I feel quite comfortable with it these days. However, I want to talk about what I think is the underlying message that my anxiety, I guess, was giving me. Like, I think my anxiety was derived from a place of I didn't feel like I was living authentically generally. Like, my life wasn't reflecting what I really wanted and who I really was. And therefore, like, I didn't feel like I was being authentic. And I've over time interpreted my anxiety to be a friend that was trying to give me a message, and it didn't know how else to give it to me. Like, it had to get
So,
extreme enough that,
for example, in your job, when you did
yeah.
that go around the table thing, how did you feel you were being inauthentic?
Well, it wasn't that the moment made me feel I was being inauthentic. I think, like, at work, I just hadn't found my confidence yet. Like, and
Mm.
so you feel like you're faking it until you make it, kind of thing.
Mm.
And I think when, for me, if I'm in that headspace and I'm not leading with authenticity, I'm going to feel kind of anxious about it. And that's what happened. You feel uncomfortable with who you are if you're not being who you are. That's kind of what it was for me.
Yeah.
And I think it takes a while to learn how to be that in a workplace as well. Like, it's one thing to be yourself around your friends, which for some people is hard. But, you know, when you're young and you're building a career, putting yourself in these spaces that feel a little, like, really foreign and like maybe not totally aligned to something you want to do, but it's like, well, I'm here, and like, you know,
Mm.
it can be quite difficult to. And also when you're like around much older people who are very experienced in their roles and stuff like that, you suddenly feel so, it's easy to feel inadequate, and
Yeah.
and it's difficult to bring yourself, your authentic self, to the workspace sometimes, and that takes time to
Yeah.
learn how to
I can
blend that.
definitely relate to that because the one time that I would say I've suffered anxiety was when I was teaching in secondary school, and
Yeah.
I was depressed as well, but I just started feeling like heart palpitations really often, like when I had to go to work, and just a general feeling of, well, I don't know if I would say like imposter syndrome or anxiety, but definitely the heart thing was like not a normal, not anything I've ever experienced. And I definitely felt like I was failing at my job. Like I didn't deserve it. And I was constantly on edge because kids were so like so
They were
mean, basically
buttholes.
just so mean,
Yeah.
so difficult, and like you never knew how it was going to go, and like and if you did anything like in a millisecond your lesson could turn on you and you wouldn't have control,
Yeah.
and it seemed like everyone I was working with just didn't find it as hard as I did. Yeah, so that's when I felt anxiety. Like, I would say the biggest thing that, well, actually, the only thing I really remember about it was the heart. Like, I felt like my heart just went way too fast every day at work.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks. There's so many variations of like people's experiences with anxiety. Like obviously I'm just sharing mine, but really mine is like social. But I think a lot of people have so many other types. But yeah, like I've interpreted my anxiety to really be a friend in me. Like it's something that is trying to give me a message. So these days I'm a lot better at acknowledging it and listening to it. And so yeah, actually I wanted to let me just expand on that a bit anyway, because I think there's a bit of mental gymnastics you've got to do when you recognize that you're anxious. You've got to suddenly play different roles in your head. Because what it used to be, if it's the first time you're experiencing anxiety, that anxious voice comes up and it's all you can hear, and it takes over. It like totally takes over your bodily response and your actual beliefs, and you don't yet know how to combat it with another more reasonable voice. But I think how I started to address that was first to recognize that it's a friend and it's trying to tell me something. Okay, if it's trying to tell me something, that insinuates there's the me involved in that equation, and the me has a response to that. So, what you can do instead, once you start feeling anxiety come up, the you in that equation goes, oh, some anxiety here. Hello, welcome. Come into the house. Let's see what you have to say. And just take a moment to like acknowledge it, listen to it, maybe be curious about what it is that's triggering it, but be careful when you're being curious about it, because what you
Mm.
don't want to invite is a spiral of negative thoughts. But you want to make yourself feel like the emotion is welcome, like not to fight
Mm.
it. It's like the old Chinese, what's it? The Chinese finger trap.
Yeah.
The more you
Yeah.
pull, it's tighter it's gonna get. You gotta like lean in.
Mm. Yeah,
And
that makes sense.
And then when it feels welcome, it has less power over you, and you have a bit more power over it. And that isn't to say you can totally eradicate it. Sometimes it's just, okay, it's here, I'm just going to have to ride it. But as long as your attitude is that, it's difficult to spiral, because it's like, okay, emotion's here. Oh, here's a thought. That's a pretty negative thought. Let's not pay attention to that too much. Where it's like, okay, I hear you. I don't need to believe you right now. That's kind of the thought process that I'd started to learn to have.
So, what you're saying actually reminds me of something I saw online recently that there was like a thread from Twitter or something that someone was commenting on something that Chris Evans had said, where he said the most the most valuable lesson he's learned is to tell his brain to shh, because I think he has anxiety, and he says the noise that your brain makes isn't necessarily important. It doesn't mean it's who you are. It's not going to help you necessarily. It just makes noise all the time. So if it's just making noise that's not helpful to you, you can just go shh, shh. That's kind of
Yeah,
like
I
what you're
do
saying.
like that. Yeah, in principle, yes, but I think you got to be careful the tone in which you're shushing the anxiety.
Yeah, I
For
think
me,
he did it in a nice tone. It wasn't like shh. It was like shh.
yeah, yeah. But I think like I need more than that. Like, yes, it is also shh, but it needs another voice that is like, because it's not just about the trying to get rid of the anxiety. It's about filling it with another voice
Mm,
that is a bit wiser, a bit
mm.
more aware, a bit more aware of the reason why it's there, if that makes sense. Like I'll explain something that I've experienced anxiety very little in recent months, even in like the last couple of years maybe. But there've been a couple times where I have been anxious about something, like leading up to something. And I started doing this thing, which sounds crazy on the outside, but it was really effective for me. I would talk out loud. to myself, but I'd be like something like this. I'd play like two characters in a way. I'd be like, oh, you're anxious. Like, oh, I can feel your heart beating fast or whatever. What are you worried about? And then I'd be the other person. And I'd just say in the most honest, raw form what it is I'm worried about. Because
Would you do
sometimes
it in
it's
a different
subconscious, you're not
voice?
really aware. No.
I'm really worried
Sometimes
about
it's
like.
kind of yeah. Just like say it out loud. Say the truth, whatever lame thing, whatever stupid, childish thing it is. Say it, and then switch to the other voice and be like, "Oh, okay, interesting. Do you have a lot of
That's dumb.
evidence that that is the case?" No, but
No, I mean, you
like you're
would
literally
say,
talking to
oh,
yourself like you're a
okay,
child.
I hear you. That's dumb.
Okay, let me put this in a bit more of an example. I was having like a job interview. It wasn't even a job interview. It was like some networking call that could have turned into a job interview. And I just got a bit anxious about it. And some of the voices in my head would be like you don't know what you're doing, you know? Or like they're gonna think you're not professional enough. Like something stupid. And then the other
Mm-hmm.
voice would have to be like, you don't know what you're doing? That's interesting because you spent the last 7 years doing exactly this. You've been doing it well and you've always got good feedback. And it's like, oh, okay. And then you move on to the next fear. Like, oh, what's the next fear? It's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I can understand that. But also, if you think about it this way, blah, 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 blah. And you give yourself the evidence, like the reasonable evidence that you have that
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that really was effective for me. Afterwards, I'm like, oh, I'm so calm, so level headed. And I feel like I've expressed what it is my body was trying to express. And it was met
Yeah.
with care and reason. You're not
Yeah.
suppressing it. And it made it a lot easier for me to move forward. So it sounds a bit silly, but it's worked. It's worked for me saying
It
it out
doesn't
loud.
sound
Because even if
silly.
you had, because if the
It's self
conversation happened in your
therapizing.
head, that, yeah, in a way, if the conversation happened in your head, I'm sure that would be somewhat effective, but I think it's different to hear yourself say the words, hear yourself say the
Yeah.
fear. It's being said, it's being heard. Okay, now it's received, it feels like it's expressed itself. Yeah, so that's that. But to loop back to, I think my first real coping mechanisms for anxiety was actually more meditation. I was doing a lot
Mm-hmm.
of meditation in the time that I did a bit of therapy too, but I'm not sure that helped so much. Because there's only like 6 sessions of CBT. It wasn't the greatest. Anyway, I did a lot of meditation in the time when my anxiety was getting really bad, and I basically did it every day, like every night. And that was hugely beneficial for me because it was training that muscle that pulls you out of your thoughts and observes your thoughts and then releases it into the ether. And
Yeah.
that little cycle, training that muscle made a huge difference for me because I was a lot more able to notice my anxiety as opposed to be embodied by my anxiety and overwhelmed by it. Okay, so this is the point in the podcast where Sasha's camera and sound mysteriously disappears. And when I was editing this, it was only me talking for the next several minutes. So I'm having to re-record this by myself because Sasha is a busy lady in the next few days. So I'm wearing the same t-shirt for continuity. You're welcome. And yeah, I'm just going to finish off this podcast with the last few points I wanted to cover. Sasha didn't really say a single thing interesting for the rest of this podcast anyway. To be honest, I don't really even know why she's on this podcast. She's pretty dull most of the time. Just kidding. She's the best. Okay, so the points I wanted to touch on before closing up. One was what you can do to help someone that is going through anxiety. Now, I'm talking from my experience. Like, this is what I would have appreciated from the people around me. And it does differ depending on where in my anxiety journey I was. So, if I was early in my anxiety journey, like it's something I haven't spoken about much. I've yet to like really sort of come to terms with what it is I'm experiencing. There's still a lot of shame and embarrassment around it. What I really would have appreciated at the time was like if people around me or close friends or whatever was noticing that I was getting anxious about something, especially in a social situation, firstly, take the attention away from me. Like take over the conversation, or even like maybe give a person an out in the situation, like say, oh, can you come help me with something in the kitchen, whatever. Just like pull them out of the situation, like snap them out of it in their head, and give them just like a bit of space to breathe, I suppose. So that's something that would have been helpful. I think especially like in my situation, like if I was blanking in the middle of a sentence or something, it definitely does help for you to just take over the conversation. So that's one thing you can do. And possibly if your relationship is appropriate with that person, you can even help them name it and address it after the fact. So say like, you know, after a night out with your friends, when you notice that they're anxious or whatever, you can like bring it up to them. I'm not even sure like exactly how you would word it, but you can even say like, oh, you know, I've noticed, I sense that you were maybe a bit anxious tonight. Like I know what that feels like, or blah blah blah. Like, are you okay? You know, just name it, because I think sometimes like when you're experiencing a lot of anxiety and you don't really know what's happening to you, you kind of feel like you're going a bit crazy, or it's like, do people around me notice what's happening? And it can be helpful for someone to address it later. So it just feels less like shameful in a way. Especially if you address it with kindness and understanding, that can go a really long way. If I were later in my anxiety journey, when I've sort of more come to terms with it, I'm more comfortable with talking about it, it can be helpful to just name it in the moment. Like if you notice someone's anxious, just say, you know, you can just like put your hand on their leg or hold their hand or whatever, depending on the kind of relationship you have, and just be like, you feeling a bit anxious? Oh, it's okay. Why don't you take a moment? Like that can be really helpful. And, you know, in that moment, it invites me or whoever you're dealing with to be like, yeah, you know, I am anxious, and feel okay with that. You know, you say it out loud, and it starts to feel okay. Another thing that's a bit practical, actually, and it's something I've utilized in the past. If you put pressure on somebody's chest while they're anxious, it can help to stimulate. I think it's the vagus nerve that it stimulates, and it triggers a response in your parasympathetic nervous system that basically tells your body that you're safe, and it starts to reduce the physical manifestations of anxiety. So, I mean, it is not always appropriate to like somehow put pressure on somebody's chest, but if it is, like with my ex partner, at times when he was anxious, I'll just literally lie on top of him, or you know, you could just hug someone really tight. And yeah, that can help. I think there are other ways to stimulate the vagus nerve as well. Like I think there's some exercises you can do with your ears and things like that. Not exercises, I mean like massages you can do with your ears. Exercise exercises would be fun. So those are some things you can do. But I think generally speaking, what really helps is to demystify it and destigmatize it. And I think ultimately what that means is talking about it. You know, be open about what you're experiencing or what you're noticing someone experiencing, and approach it with kindness and openness, and that really helps to take away the shame, I think. The other thing I would bring up for me is, so I quit coffee about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, and it made a big difference to my anxiety. The thing is, the timing of that really coincided with a lot of other things I was changing in my life that really helped to reduce my anxiety. Like I made a series of difficult decisions that meant that I would start living in a more authentic, truthful way, I guess. And I think that fundamentally really made me feel less anxious. But when I quit coffee, and by the way, I was only a light coffee drinker. Like I drank a coffee every day, but pretty much only one coffee every day in the morning. And not a very strong coffee either. I mean, sometimes I'd have a cheeky little flat white, which is a double espresso, but most of the time it would just be at home with my like Nespresso machine. Um, but when I quit, it massively reduced this like constant low level anxiety that I had, and it made my anxiety feel a lot less close to the surface and a lot less triggerable, if that's a word. I think it is. Um, and like there were times when I was like, wow, this situation would normally make me feel so anxious, but I almost physically cannot make myself feel anxious right now. It just felt so far away after a while after I'd stopped drinking coffee. So that was a big revelation, like simple lifestyle choices. And the thing is, like, I knew about that. Oh, people tell you coffee makes you anxious, alcohol makes you anxious, whatever. It's like, yeah, I knew that. But then when you actually quit, you're like, damn, I've been low level torturing myself for years. Um, and what a simple fix that was. So I would consider, if it's something you can let go of, and I know it's hard, like I miss coffee all the time, caffeinated coffee, but if it's something you'd consider letting go of, try it out. Try it if you experience anxiety and see if it makes a difference for you. And I guess maybe do a bit of research into what you're experiencing. There are people out there talking about it, like we are, people on YouTube that talk about it, and it helps you sort of understand what you're experiencing. When I first started experiencing panic attacks, I did research as well and realized, oh, this is a panic attack. Oh, yep, a lot of people are experiencing the same thing as me. It's good to know. So, yeah, that's that. The final thing that I shared when Sasha and I recorded this was a poem that I'd written years ago. Well, yeah, a good few years ago, when I was first really starting to come to terms with like what it was I was experiencing. I'm gonna read it to you. It feels a little bit more embarrassing now reading it alone versus reading it to Sasha, but whatever. It's not the best poem in the world, but I think it really helped me to like simply express myself. So let's see. Here it goes. Steady, steady does it now. Just don't forget to breathe. Rein it in and hold it down, and maybe no one will see. One word after another, like getting blood from a stone. If I could just get to the end of this sentence, no one will have ever known. All eyes are on me now, but I'm nowhere to be seen. An uncanny carbon copy, with the brain of a glitchy machine. The wave of my words is breaking, and there's no turning back the tide. Faces start to disfigure into what must be a reflection of mine. Cracked is my feeble illusion, and there's nowhere left to hide, from an audience uninvited to witness the spectacle of my mind. Crash, bang, silence. Then a swift change of subject. Did a death just go unnoticed here? I wait to resurrect. The room felt but a tremor of the quake inside my head, afraid of the thoughts of others when I should really fear mine instead. Stuck with my mental squatter, my sharp-tongued Siamese twin. I swear I'll shake this anxiety, but until then, I'll just hold it in. And this is a bit where Sasha clapped and said, oh, that's good. And I say, oh, really? I don't think it's that good. She goes, no, it's good. But here I am sitting alone. Anyway, I hope in some capacity that resonated with somebody out there. And I would invite you to talk about it more. Please share in the comments what your experiences are or anything that has helped you in your process through anxiety if you happen to be someone who experiences it, and sort of what you've done to overcome it or befriend it. And yeah, give us a like, give us a review. If you are a friend, please do it. It would be very nice indeed, because it would be nice if we could somehow expand out the audience of this podcast a bit further. We've got a lot of lovely loyal friends who listen to this, but it would be nice to expand it out. Not that we've got like particularly big growth goals or anything, but all right, I think that's it for today. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you soon. Lots of love. Bye.